Hi everyone. I get a chance to talk with my friends who are working with the students who are currently teachers. So I interview with them through the emails. So here's my interview questions. I list 8 questions for them. So the first one is when students use technology in the class, which way are they engaged into the technology? Individually, pairs, small groups, or others kinds? And what is your frequency of technology use with students? Ranking from 1 to 5, 1 means seldom, 5 means almost daily. So, how do you rate yourself to use technology resources in a class to support students? From 1 to 5, 1 is not yet, and 5 means almost an expert, uh, and they are able to teach others. So, how do you rate your students' proficiency with technology? Also ranking from 1 to 5, and how is the internet or technology as access to at school for a class? And what is your school policy for technology use? How do you ensure your students are using the technology in the classroom properly? How do you accommodate students with special needs by technology use? So here are these 3 teachers' profiles. The first one is Mr. Zhou. He's a special education teacher who teaches first grade and kindergarten in Xiamen Special Education School. I volunteer for their school last year. That's why I get chance to connect with them. And the other one is Miss Zhang, which is another special education teacher who teaches third and fourth grade, also in the Xiamen Special Education School. The other one is my prior colleague, which is Miss Lu, and she is an English teacher who teaches in the Xiamen University International School, and most of her students are freshmen. So here are their responses for my 8 questions. The first, when it comes to first question, Mr. Zhou says, most of time the students work individually because he teaches in the self-contained classroom, so the class size is just 6 students, so each student get one-on-one help with the technology. So and Miss Zhang, who teaches third and fourth grade, she has more ways of engaging students into technology use. She said she has individually, pairs, or in small groups, while Miss Lu, who teaches the freshmen, her subject is English, so she includes all of the ways and plus using the whole class technology use, like playing YouTube related video for the classroom content. For question 2, Mr. Zhou says he doesn't really use the technology with the students because most of students are low function, so the more important teaching goal is about the independent skills, while Miss Zhang says like she uses technology once or twice a week in the classroom when it comes to different subjects like nature, like science. And Miss Lu, who teaches English, says she uses the technology in the classroom very frequently, almost every day. She uses the projector, the app, the different kinds of online platform, so she's using technology daily. For question 3, and both Mr. Zhou and Miss Zhang rate themselves as beginners since they don't have so many chances of using the technology in their class, and while Miss Liu rate herself as an expert, she thinks she's able to teach others. Then question 4, and Mr. Zhou rate his students as not yet, so they are just ready to use the technology, while Miss Zhang says like the students who most of her students are on the autism spectrum disorders, and most of them are low function, so they are able to use with hands over hands instruction. So Mr. Liu says all of her students are very proficient in technology use. And the next question, since Mr. Zhou and Miss Zhang work in the same school, so they have in the public school, so they need ask for permission from administrators for the use of the iPad. But they do have the projectors in the classroom, so they can use. Mr. Liu reported that internet at school is not very stable, so if she wants to play the video to the students, she better download it before the class. Question 6, Mr. Zhou and Miss Zhang says the school is very strict for the technology use, but they are quite open for the suggestions. And Miss Liu says the school administrators, the two different directors, hold different views towards technology use, which creates the situation kind of complicated. And question 7, Mr. Zhou says like students have one-on-one teaching assistants, so they are closely supervised, so he's not worried about the behavior when it comes to technology use. And also Miss Zhang has even though she didn't have like one-on-one teaching assistant for her students, the teacher-student ratio is also very low, so she doesn't really worry about that. So Miss Liu says she has to collaborate with the school technical team to ensure like students are not using other websites like Facebook, Twitters when they get chance to use the technology. And the last question, so since Mr. Zhang and Miss Zhou work in the special education school, so all of the lesson plans are designed for students with special needs. And Miss Liu says the school doesn't have really clear policies about students with special needs, so she didn't have a really specific plan. So, but she always try her best to include every student. So because their lesson plans belong to school, so they are not able to share the lesson plan with me, but they talk about their lesson plans. So here's my conclusion about about Miss Liu's lesson plan. Most of the time she uses the PowerPoint to put the key points she wants to elaborate in the classroom, and she used the time management website a lot to make sure students finish the in-class activity in time. And Class Dojo is also one of the apps she mentioned a lot that helps her manage the whole class. And also she talks about flip cards. She can put the questions on the one side and put the answers on the other side, so it is easier for students to review the content. And for my checklist, I think the sufficient long instructional periods for teachers and students are very necessary. So you ensure both teachers and students are able to use the technology. And also, from the interview, I think teacher and student ratio is very important too. So if the ratio is like too high, students didn't get the chance to hear the feedback from the teachers, and instructional accessibility of technology, student technology use level, and also backup when technology goes wrong. So here's my checklist.